all began with one shocking decision. Ram, the once mighty powerhouse of the truck world, started collapsing before our eyes. Within a matter of months, thousands of jobs were cut, dealerships overflowed with unsold trucks, and loyal fans began questioning the future of the brand they once loved. Why is Ram falling behind while rivals like Ford and General Motors surge ahead? What caused Stellantis to gamble everything on an electric pivot that doesn't seem to be paying off? And most importantly, what does this mean for truck enthusiasts and everyday drivers alike? In the next few minutes, we'll pull back the curtain and reveal how it all went so wrong. Stay tuned. This story isn't just about trucks, it's about a brand fighting for survival. The first warning sign. Recently, 2,450 workers at the Warren Truck Assembly Plant found themselves without a job, a stark move that many see as a harbinger of trouble within Stellantis, Ram's parent company. This assembly plant, previously the source of the iconic Ram 1500 Classic, is now scaling back operations. For many loyal customers and dealers, this is not merely a shift in production. It is a sign that Ram, once a powerhouse in the truck market, is faltering under the weight of Stellantis' strategic missteps. These layoffs have sent shockwaves through the industry, raising questions about Ram's long-term viability. Unlike Ford and GM, which have managed to balance innovation with maintaining strong production capacity, Stellantis' decision to cut jobs signals a different, less promising direction. By reducing its workforce, Stellantis has diminished Ram's ability to produce at the scale required to remain competitive. This move may save costs in the short term, but it has left industry analysts and consumers wondering, is this the beginning of the end for Ram as a top contender in the pickup truck race? The pricing disaster, Ram's fatal mistake. Would you pay nearly $100,000 for a Ram truck? If you are like most buyers, the answer is probably no. That is the dilemma Ram faces after Stellantis decided to discontinue the Ram 1500 Classic, a model that offered affordability and accessibility to a wide audience. With this cost-conscious option gone, customers are now forced to look at more expensive trims, pushing Ram's lineup firmly into the premium price bracket. Ford and GM, on the other hand, kept a range of affordable truck models available, ensuring that budget-conscious buyers still had options. Ram, in a push to elevate its brand and chase luxury margins, alienated its core audience. Longtime customers who once saw Ram as a reliable and reasonably priced alternative have begun looking elsewhere, primarily toward Ford and GM. Stellantis' gamble on a higher-priced product line might have seemed logical on paper, but in practice, it pushed loyal Ram fans away, leaving them feeling ignored and priced out. This pricing shift also puts Ram in a precarious position. With rising inflation and increasing interest rates, consumers are more sensitive than ever to cost. Ford and GM's ability to offer models at varying price points has allowed them to maintain customer loyalty and sustain strong sales figures. Ram's decision to remove its budget-friendly option, combined with the steep price tags of its newer models, has backfired spectacularly. The result? Declining sales, a shrinking customer base, and growing skepticism about Stellantis' leadership. Workers and dealers fight back. Stellantis is facing a growing storm on multiple fronts, and both its workforce and its dealership network are at the center of the turmoil. Recent layoffs and plant closures have ignited backlash from workers and their unions, with the United Auto Workers, UAW, taking a firm stance against the company's aggressive cost-cutting measures. Thousands of employees, including those at Warren Truck Assembly, have been hit hard, fueling frustration and uncertainty. Union leaders argue that Stellantis is prioritizing corporate profits over worker stability, and their demands for stronger job protections and better working conditions highlight the widening rift between leadership and employees. The question remains, how can Stellantis expect to thrive if it alienates the very people building its vehicles? But workers are not the only ones pushing back. Ram dealers are also revolting. Across the country, dealerships are struggling under the weight of unsold inventory, blaming Stellantis' ineffective pricing strategies and lack of competitive incentives. While Ford and General Motors offer aggressive promotions and financing options, Stellantis' reluctance to provide similar support has left dealers in a difficult position. Making matters worse, Stellantis has slashed its marketing budgets, leaving dealers to fend for themselves in an increasingly competitive market. Many have publicly voiced their frustration, accusing Stellantis of being out of touch with the realities they face daily. This growing discontent across Stellantis' workforce and dealership network signals deeper systemic issues. Dealers, like like workers, play a critical role in the company's success, acting as the frontline representatives of the Ram brand. When they struggle, customers notice, whether it's due to a lack of enthusiasm, poor inventory selection, or pricing that fails to compete. If Stellantis does not move quickly to repair these vital relationships, it risks further alienating its most important stakeholders, accelerating its downward spiral in the US market. How Ford and GM took over the truck market. Ram used to challenge Ford and GM as an equal contender. Today, it is a different story. Ford and GM have surged ahead, leveraging innovative strategies that Stellantis seemingly ignored. Ford's hybrid F-150 models and GM's aggressive pricing on the Silverado have attracted a broad spectrum of buyers, from the eco-conscious to the budget-minded. Ram's late arrival to the hybrid and electric truck segment put it at a significant disadvantage. Ford and GM, meanwhile, were ready with well-timed launches that captured the public's imagination in dollars. The shift toward electrification only highlights Ram's lag. While Ford's Lightning has taken the EV market by storm, Ram's electric truck is still on the horizon. By the time Ram's EV enters production, Ford and GM will have further entrenched themselves as leaders in electric and hybrid pickups. Stellantis' slow response to evolving market demands, coupled with its pricing mistakes and lack of dealer support, has allowed its rivals to seize the initiative. Moreover, Ford and GM stayed true to their core buyers. While Stellantis pursued a luxury strategy, Ford and GM continued to cater to their traditional truck audiences. They never lost sight of the working-class, utility-focused drivers who form the backbone of the truck market. Ram's shift toward high-priced luxury models alienated these buyers, allowing Ford and GM to scoop them up. The result is a clear shift in market dominance. Ram, once a serious competitor, now trails behind its two biggest rivals, unable to reclaim its former glory. The EV truck pivot. Stellantis made a bold bet on electric vehicles, believing they represented the future of the automotive industry. But for Ram's loyal customers, this pivot felt like a betrayal. Instead of maintaining a balanced approach with gas, hybrid, and electric options, Stellantis seemed to place all its chips on EVs. For years, Ram fans had relied on rugged, gas-powered trucks capable of handling tough jobs and long hauls. When Stellantis shifted focus, those customers felt left behind. Ford and GM, on the other hand, recognized the importance of offering a spectrum of choices. They continued producing popular gas-powered models while also rolling out hybrids and electric trucks. This strategy allowed them to retain their traditional customer base while attracting new eco-conscious buyers. By trying to move too quickly into the EV space, Stellantis found itself struggling to keep up with competitors who understood the value of gradual transition and maintaining brand loyalty. Ram's struggles underscore how risky Stellantis' approach has been. The company seemed to believe that consumers would embrace the change as quickly as the industry leaders had hoped, but many Ram buyers, especially those in rural areas and industries reliant on dependable long-range trucks, have not been as eager to switch. Without the option of affordable hybrids or updated gas-powered trucks, these loyal customers have begun to look elsewhere. The Ford F-150 and Chevrolet Silverado remain strong contenders, not just because of their long-standing reputations, but because their makers have adapted more carefully. Stellantis' gamble to focus heavily on EVs rather than maintaining a balanced product line has created a disconnect between the company and its core audience. Rather than transitioning customers gradually, Stellantis seemed to leave them with few options, alienating a significant portion of its base. This misstep opened the door for competitors to strengthen their positions while Stellantis struggled to find its footing. Stellantis' $46 million EV investment, while cutting jobs. Stellantis has poured an impressive $46 million into its EV production efforts. On the surface, this investment signals a commitment to the future. However, this massive spending coincides with thousands of layoffs, sending a mixed message to workers and consumers alike. For the people on Stellantis assembly lines, the shift to electric vehicles does not feel like progress. Instead, it feels like a trade-off. Investment in one area comes at the cost of job security in another. By comparison, Ford and GM have taken a more measured approach. They have invested heavily in electric technology, but not at the expense of their workforce. While Stellantis was busy announcing its expensive EV programs, Ford and GM worked to ensure a smoother transition for their employees. This difference in strategy has not gone unnoticed. Consumers and workers alike have begun questioning whether Stellantis' EV ambitions were worth the cost, especially as it struggles to bring competitive products to market. These layoffs also fuel uncertainty amongst Stellantis' employees. Even as the company touts its EV investments, many workers wonder if their jobs will be next. This creates a tension that affects not only morale, but also productivity. Workers who feel unsupported and insecure are less likely to produce the quality products that Stellantis needs to compete in the increasingly crowded EV market. It is a vicious cycle. Layoffs create doubt, doubt impacts performance, and poor performance makes it harder for Stellantis to regain its competitive edge. For a company that once dominated certain segments of the automotive market, Stellantis' current predicament is a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. The decision to invest so heavily in EVs while cutting jobs and ignoring the needs of its workforce has placed Stellantis in a precarious position. The question now is whether the company can course correct before these decisions do lasting damage to its reputation and market position. Ram's EV struggles versus Ford Lightning. Who's winning? The Ford F-150 Lightning has already made a strong impression in the electric pickup truck market. While Stellantis has promised an electric Ram, it remains years away. In the interim, Ford has captured significant market share, establishing itself as the go-to choice for buyers looking to make the switch from traditional gas-powered trucks to electric ones. This lead in the EV truck race has put Stellantis in a difficult position. Ram's absence from the electric market is glaring. While Ford builds customer loyalty with its Lightning and GM works on its own electric trucks, Stellantis is playing catch-up. Even when Ram's electric truck finally arrives, it will face an uphill battle against well-established models that have already proven themselves in the marketplace. For Stellantis, every year without a competitive EV offering pushes Ram further behind in a market that is quickly embracing electrification. Ford's early success with the F-150 Lightning is not just about being first. It is about delivering a product that resonates with consumers, meeting their expectations in performance, range, and price. Ram's delayed entry into the EV market means it must not only match Ford's performance, but exceed it in some way to win back customers. This is no easy task, and Stellantis faces immense pressure to get it right. The stakes are higher than ever. If Ram's electric truck fails to deliver, it could solidify Stellantis' position as a laggard in the EV space rather than a leader. More importantly, it risks damaging Ram's reputation as an innovative truck brand. Consumers are watching closely, and if Ram fails to make a compelling case, buyers may not wait. Instead, they could fully commit to Ford, GM, or even emerging EV players like Rivian and Tesla. The longer Stellantis delays, the harder it will be to convince truck owners that Ram is ready for the electric future. Stellantis EV problem, the bigger crisis. It is not just Ram that is feeling the pressure. Stellantis' entire electric vehicle strategy appears flawed. Other brands under the Stellantis umbrella, such as Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler, are also struggling to gain traction with their EV models. Overpriced, underperforming, and generally underwhelming, these vehicles have failed to excite buyers. Instead of emerging as a leader in the EV market, Stellantis finds itself scrambling to keep pace with competitors that seem to have a clearer vision and better execution. But this broader EV problem reflects deeper issues within Stellantis. The company's ambitious shift to electrification has been plagued by missteps, from pricing that alienates consumers to marketing that fails to generate excitement. As competitors like Ford and GM continue to refine their EV lineups and win over skeptical customers, Stellantis' strategy increasingly looks like a gamble that is not paying off. Without a course correction, Stellantis risks falling further behind, not only in the EV race, but in the larger battle for relevance in the automotive industry. One of the most significant challenges Stellantis faces is the perception of value. Consumers are willing to pay a premium for electric vehicles, but only if they see clear advantages in performance, efficiency, or innovation. Stellantis' current EV offerings, however, often come with high price tags and underwhelming features. This has created a disconnect between what the company is offering and what consumers are willing to buy. In contrast, competitors like Tesla have built their brands on delivering cutting-edge technology and a seamless user experience, making them the gold standard in the EV world. Stellantis' inability to match this level of innovation leaves it struggling to compete. In addition, Stellantis has not done enough to build confidence in its EV lineup. Ford's F-150 Lightning and GM's growing electric portfolio benefit from years of groundwork, investments in technology, partnerships, and a clear vision for the future. Stellantis, by contrast, seems to be playing catch-up. Its EV announcements often come off as reactive rather than proactive, making it appear as though Stellantis is being dragged into the future rather than leading the charge. This perception further weakens consumer trust and makes it harder for Stellantis to establish a strong foothold in the market. For Stellantis, the path forward is clear, but not easy. The company must refine its EV strategy, lower costs, and deliver vehicles that genuinely excite and satisfy customers. Without these changes, Stellantis will remain a step behind competitors that have already captured the hearts and minds of the modern automotive consumer. A mountain of unsold cars. Imagine thousands of unsold vehicles sitting idle, gathering dust. That's the reality Stellantis faces. With over 1.4 million vehicles currently stuck in inventory, Stellantis is grappling with one of the largest overstock situations in the industry. This issue extends across its brands, Ram, Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler, painting a picture of miscalculated production and a fundamental disconnect from consumer preferences. How did Stellantis end up here? Initially, the company ramped up production to offset supply chain disruptions. The logic seemed sound: increase output so customers wouldn't experience long wait times. However, as market conditions shifted and consumer interest waned, Stellantis found itself holding far more inventory than it could move. The vehicles kept coming off the production line, but the demand was no longer there to meet them. The result: dealership lots filled with unsold cars, trucks, and SUVs. This overstock is more than just a logistical headache. It represents a massive financial burden, tying up capital in vehicles that depreciate every day they sit unsold. Dealers are left struggling to find ways to clear their lots, often resorting to discounts or other incentives that eat into their margins. For Stellantis, it's a lose-lose scenario. Vehicles sitting idle cost money, but selling them at a discount reduces profits even further. The excessive inventory isn't just a sign of short-term missteps, it reflects deeper strategic issues that could have lasting repercussions. Jeep's mistake. For decades, Jeep has been synonymous with rugged, go-anywhere vehicles beloved by off-road enthusiasts. The brand's iconic Wrangler has been a symbol of adventure, known for its ability to handle tough terrain and extreme conditions. But in recent years, Stellantis pushed Jeep toward a more luxury-oriented path, aiming to attract a different demographic. In doing so, it risked alienating the very customers who made Jeep a household name. This shift became evident as Jeep introduced more upscale trims and higher price points. While these models offered premium features, they moved away from the brand's core identity. Jeep loyalists, those who bought Wranglers to tackle trails, not valet lines, felt increasingly overlooked. They began looking elsewhere for vehicles that captured the adventurous spirit Jeep once embodied, and they found it most notably in the revived Ford Bronco. The sales numbers tell the story. Wrangler sales dropped by a staggering 33%, signaling that Jeep's core audience wasn't on board with the brand's new direction. The Bronco, on the other hand, gained momentum by staying true to its off-road roots while offering modern updates. Jeep's attempt to reposition itself as a luxury player created a void in the rugged vehicle market that Ford was more than happy to fill. This miscalculation not only hurt sales, but also tarnished Jeep's reputation among its most devoted fans. Dodge's crisis. Few automotive brands have built as devoted a following as Dodge has with its muscle cars. The Charger and Challenger, with their roaring V8 engines, became icons of American performance. They weren't just cars, they were statements, symbols of raw power, speed, and adrenaline. Yet Stellantis, in its push toward electrification, made the controversial decision to phase out these beloved models. The shift wasn't just about engines, it was about identity. The Charger and Challenger represented more than just vehicles. They were embodiments of a culture that celebrated horsepower, aggressive styling, and a rebellious spirit. Replacing these models with electric alternatives, no matter how capable, fundamentally altered what Dodge stood for. To many loyalists, it felt like losing a part of the brand's soul. While the new electric models promise impressive performance and modern technology, they lack the visceral connection that came from hearing a V8 rumble to life. For enthusiasts who grew up on muscle cars, the shift to electrification feels like the end of an era. Dodge's sales have suffered as a result, and the brand faces the challenge of convincing die-hard fans that the future can be just as exciting as the past. But so far, that message hasn't landed. Chrysler, a brand that's barely surviving. Once a cornerstone of American automotive innovation, Chrysler has dwindled to a shadow of its former self. The brand's lineup is now down to just two models, the Chrysler 300 sedan and the Pacifica minivan. In an industry where variety is key, this limited offering leaves Chrysler struggling to stay relevant. While other manufacturers pivot toward SUVs, crossovers, and electric vehicles, Chrysler seems stuck in the past. The Pacifica, while still a strong contender in the minivan market, can't carry the brand on its own. Sales have remained steady but unremarkable, and it's clear that one vehicle, no matter how good, can't sustain a legacy. The Chrysler 300, meanwhile, is part of a shrinking sedan market, overshadowed by the growing popularity of SUVs. This lack of innovation and expansion leaves Chrysler with few options and even fewer customers. Stellantis' unwillingness to invest in Chrysler's future has only compounded the problem. Despite suggestions from industry experts and insiders about how to revitalize the brand, whether by introducing electric vehicles or tapping into popular market segments, Stellantis has largely ignored Chrysler's potential. Instead, the brand has been left to wither, its lineup outdated and its reputation fading. Without a clear plan or commitment to growth, Chrysler's survival is uncertain. If Stellantis continues on its current path, it may ultimately decide to let Chrysler fade away, marking the quiet end of a once great American automaker. So, who's in charge? At the heart of Stellantis' struggles lies a troubling pattern: frequent leadership changes and a lack of cohesive direction. The company's executive turnover rate has been alarmingly high, leaving employees, dealers, and even consumers wondering who is truly steering this ship. While other automakers like Ford and General Motors present consistent leadership and well-defined strategies, Stellantis often appears to be in flux. This instability creates a ripple effect. Without a clear, unified vision from the top, Stellantis has struggled to execute long-term plans effectively. The company's decisions often seem reactive, not proactive. For instance, Stellantis' shift toward a luxury-oriented truck market, its later rival to the electric vehicle race, and its uneven approach to pricing and incentives all reflect the absence of steady, forward-thinking leadership. Instead of capitalizing on market trends, Stellantis frequently finds itself scrambling to catch up. Leadership changes can sometimes bring fresh perspectives, but in Stellantis' case, they have created more uncertainty than innovation. This revolving door at the executive level makes it nearly impossible for the company to maintain consistent messaging or long-term planning. In the automotive industry, where strategic foresight and stability are critical, Stellantis' leadership woes have become a significant liability. How Ford and General Motors are avoiding Stellantis' mistakes. While Stellantis struggles to find its footing, Ford and General Motors have thrived by staying one step ahead. Their strategies stand in stark contrast to Stellantis' scattered approach. Ford, for example, has embraced a balanced strategy, blending traditional gasoline-powered trucks with hybrids and electric models. By offering something for every type of buyer, Ford has managed to maintain its dominance in the pickup market while steadily expanding its electric vehicle portfolio. This calculated approach ensures that loyal customers aren't alienated while still attracting new tech-savvy consumers. General Motors has similarly struck a smart balance. By continuing to invest in both internal combustion engines and electric vehicles, GM has positioned itself as a flexible and future-ready automaker. It has carefully ramped up its electric offerings without abruptly cutting ties with its established, profitable gasoline models. This dual approach allows GM to stay competitive across multiple market segments and weather the industry's rapid changes. In both cases, these companies' consistent leadership and clear strategies have been key. Unlike Stellantis, which often appears reactionary and disorganized, Ford and GM have taken deliberate steps to remain relevant and reliable. Their strong leadership has ensured that their respective brands not only survive, but thrive in a highly competitive environment. Stellantis could learn a lot from these examples. Instead of chasing short-term gains or scrambling to address market shifts, it needs a unified vision and a coherent strategy to compete effectively. This clash isn't just a labor dispute, it's a sign of deeper troubles within Stellantis' corporate culture. A lack of clear communication, coupled with frequent cost-cutting measures, has eroded trust between management and workers. As a result, the company faces the risk of major disruptions, including potential strikes, which could further harm its already shaky position in the industry. But what do you think about this? Will it be the end for them? Let's know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.